In the twilight of the Old Order, when the cosmos still whispered secrets of forgotten worlds, the Galactic Empire had long embraced a single, all-encompassing truth. Humanity, once the luminous heart of a thriving civilization, was extinct. The decree was etched into the collective memory of every sentient being, an unassailable myth propagated through imperial broadcasts and hallowed archival relics. The Empire's grand citadel, Nova Imperia, shone like a beacon of order in the vast darkness, its monumental spires symbolizing a destiny that had no room for uncertainty or dissent. In dimly lit chambers beneath the sprawling metropolis, ancient tapestries and forbidden texts recounted the cataclysm that had supposedly erased the human race. Imperial scholars, draped in ceremonial robes and reciting the sanctioned narrative with unwavering conviction, told a tale of annihilation, of a fiery reckoning that had reduced Earth's progeny to myths. The majestic halls of the Imperial Archives were filled with holographic records and intricately coded data streams, all reinforcing a single immutable truth: humanity was no more. Yet, amidst this orchestrated symphony of certainty, whispers began to stir. In the back alleys of Nova Imperia and in the shadowy recesses of derelict space stations, dissenting murmurs clashed with the Empire's resonant proclamations. These were not the ramblings of hysterics, but the cautious, breathless voices of those who had seen something that defied the official record: a flash of light on a distant horizon, a relic marked with symbols of Earth, and stories passed down in hushed, reverent tones. One such whisper emerged in the subterranean depths of a hidden cantina, where rebels and dreamers gathered away from the prying censors of the imperial regime. There, an old informant, his face etched with the lines of countless years of clandestine work, leaned close to a cluster of wide-eyed listeners. His voice, gravelly yet insistent, carried the weight of forbidden knowledge. "They tell you," he murmured, his eyes darting toward the ceiling as if to ward off invisible enforcers, "that humanity is but a memory. But I have seen signs, ancient symbols carved into stone, whispered in languages long lost. And I've heard tales, fragments of conversation among the brave, that somewhere in the endless void, the descendants of Earth thrive in secret." Outside, the polished corridors of power continued their relentless march, oblivious to the quiet subversion taking root in the dark. In the grand broadcasting amphitheater, a silver-tongued announcer delivered the daily news with pristine authority. "Our great empire stands eternal, built upon the sacrifice and glory of our forebears. Let it be known, the age of man has ended, and with it, all that is weak and unworthy of our dominion." But beneath the veneer of calm certainty, the seeds of doubt had been sown. Every whispered rumor, every forbidden artifact, chipped away at the monolithic myth. The Empire, in its pursuit of absolute control, had forged a narrative that was as beautiful as it was brutal, a narrative that would soon be tested by the inexorable force of truth. In this charged atmosphere, where the past and future converged in an intricate dance of light and shadow, the legend of humanity's extinction loomed large. It was a tale crafted to bind the Empire to its destiny. Yet, like all legends, it contained within it the latent power to inspire rebellion and kindle hope. The cosmic stage was set, and as the galaxies spun their eternal waltz, the first whispers of a long-forgotten truth began to echo in the vast corridors of time. Dr. Aidan Mercer sat alone in his cramped quarters, the low hum of ancient machinery and the soft flicker of holographic displays his only companions. In a room cluttered with relics and forbidden manuscripts, he painstakingly pieced together fragments of a past long denied. Stacks of yellowed data pads and digital scrolls lay scattered around him, each containing coded echoes of a truth that the Empire had worked tirelessly to bury. Aidan's eyes, sharp with an insatiable curiosity, traced the faded inscriptions on an artifact unearthed from a derelict outpost. Its surface, worn smooth by the passage of millennia, bore markings unmistakably tied to Earth's lost legacy, a secret language of symbols that defied the Empire's narrative. Every curve and line whispered of a heritage rich in mystery and wonder, urging him to delve deeper into a history that was forbidden by law. Despite the omnipresent risk, the historian could not resist the pull of the unknown. The Empire's official records had long dictated that humanity had perished in a cataclysmic event, a truth delivered with the cold precision of propaganda. But as Aiden's fingertips grazed the ancient surface, he recalled the hushed voices in the shadowy corners of Nova Imperia, the whispered accounts of relics, lost languages, and hidden enclaves that refuted everything he had been taught. Late into the night, as the Empire's digital curfew cloaked the city in silence, Aiden meticulously decoded the artifact's symbols. His mind raced with the possibilities. What if the narrative of extinction was nothing more than a meticulously crafted illusion? With every deciphered glyph, his pulse quickened and his determination solidified. In that moment, the quiet scholar was transformed into a seeker of forbidden truths, daring to challenge the foundations of an empire built on lies. In the solitude of his study, Aiden engaged in a silent conversation with history itself, a dialogue woven through the rustle of ancient parchment and the glow of holographic projections. He recalled his earliest lessons in xenohistory, lessons that had kindled a passion for uncovering the mysteries of a vanished past. Now, that passion was a burning ember threatening to ignite a conflagration of rebellion. Each new revelation, each hidden detail uncovered, reinforced his conviction that the Empire's narrative was incomplete, even deliberately misleading. The weight of the secret pressed upon him, yet it also filled him with a sense of profound responsibility. Aiden understood that his work was more than academic inquiry. It was a quest for identity, a search for the very soul of humanity. In a galaxy dominated by imperial might and stringent doctrines, his solitary endeavor was an act of quiet defiance, a beacon of hope for those who still believed that the embers of human legacy might yet burn bright. Outside his modest sanctuary, the sprawling metropolis of Nova Imperia continued its relentless rhythm, unaware of the stirrings within its midst. The Empire's towering spires and immaculate corridors masked the undercurrents of discontent that now began to ripple through the shadows. And in that fragile interstice between history and myth, Dr. Mercer found both peril and possibility, a delicate balance where the truth, no matter how deeply buried, could never be extinguished. In the gleaming heart of Nova Imperia, power was not only measured by wealth or technological prowess, it was defined by the iron will of those who commanded absolute obedience. The Grand Imperial Council Chamber, a vast hall lined with marble columns and luminous holographic banners, pulsed with the cold energy of state authority. Here, beneath the watchful gaze of monumental statues and the omnipresent surveillance of the Empire's sentinel drones, Emperor Vorlon and his cadre of high-ranking officials orchestrated the rigid symphony of imperial control. Emperor Vorlon, draped in austere ceremonial regalia that betrayed no hint of personal warmth, presided over the council with an unnerving calm. His eyes, sharp and calculating, swept over the gathered ministers as if dissecting every unsaid thought. Each word he spoke was measured, a masterstroke of oratory designed to cement the Empire's narrative. Today's agenda was clear: reaffirm the official doctrine that humanity had been extinguished, ensuring that no stray relic or rumor could undermine the Empire's unwavering authority. The discussion was clinical and relentless. Ministers presented data logs and archival summaries, carefully curated evidence that had been scrubbed clean of any anomalies. Holographic projections danced before the council, illustrating a timeline that culminated in the Great Cataclysm, the supposed end of human civilization. Every piece of evidence, every statistic, was manipulated to support the myth, leaving no room for doubt. It was a masterclass in propaganda, delivered with the precision of a finely tuned machine. Yet beneath the veneer of control, there simmered a palpable tension. One of the counselors, his voice betraying a hint of unease, dared to question a minor inconsistency in the records, a question quickly quelled by Vorlon's icy interjection. "Let it be known," the Emperor declared, his tone brooking no argument, "that dissent in the face of imperial truth is not only futile but treasonous. The legacy of humanity has been laid to rest, and with it, any distractions that threaten our future." As Vorlon's words resonated through the vaulted chamber, the Imperial Guards, stoic figures clad in dark, imposing armor, stood as silent sentinels. Their presence served as a grim reminder. Any deviation from the accepted narrative would be met with swift and uncompromising force. In the corridors outside the council chamber, the echo of their boots was a constant drumbeat, a foreboding cadence that underscored the regime's relentless pursuit of order. Yet even as the Empire's iron grip tightened, a ripple of disquiet began to permeate the polished surface. Hidden within the official archives were scraps of data that defied explanation, remnants of a past that suggested a more complex truth. These anomalies, though quickly suppressed, hinted at the possibility that the story of humanity might not be as neatly concluded as the Empire claimed. In hushed whispers, a few daring minds wondered if the evidence of survival had been intentionally erased, a thought so dangerous it could unmoor the very foundations of imperial stability. Within the opulent confines of power, every decision was a calculated step towards preserving the myth. Vorlin's unwavering confidence and strategic ruthlessness had forged a regime where dissent was not only discouraged, it was obliterated. In that moment, the Empire's grandeur was inseparable from its cruelty, a duality that rendered the truth both a forbidden treasure and a lethal threat. Thus, in the polished halls of Nova Imperia, the Empire's iron fist reigned supreme, its every decree a declaration of dominance. And as the Council's proceedings drew to a close, the chilling certainty of Vorlin's words echoed in the minds of all present. To challenge the myth was to challenge the very heart of the Empire, an act that could ignite the spark of rebellion in the most tightly controlled of hearts. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors of a derelict space station on the fringes of the Empire, Dr. Aidan Mercer moved with cautious urgency. Shadows of forgotten technology and the distant hum of systems long past whispered secrets through the abandoned halls. This forsaken outpost, left to decay after centuries of imperial oversight, now served as a clandestine repository of lost knowledge, an archive hidden in plain sight. Aidan's every step was measured, his heart a metronome of both trepidation and hope. The station's walls, scrawled with the faded marks of previous generations, told silent tales of survival and resilience. As he navigated the dim corridors, the glow of his portable scanner illuminated fragments of encrypted data and ancient glyphs that pulsed with an eerie vitality. Each discovery reinforced his growing conviction. Humanity was not extinct. The evidence before him, encoded in archaic symbols and intricate data sequences, was irrefutable proof of a lineage thought erased by time and tyranny. In the heart of the station lay the hidden archive, a vault of holographic records and digitized relics that had been meticulously concealed from the imperial gaze. Here, in the quiet isolation of forgotten space, Aidan uncovered files chronicling the existence of thriving human enclaves scattered across remote star systems. The records were raw and unfiltered, containing personal logs, cultural histories, and maps pinpointing secret havens where the descendants of Earth had carved out lives beyond the Empire's reach. As the weight of this revelation pressed down on him, a sudden alert sent ripples of adrenaline through his veins. A secure terminal blinked to life, transmitting a message encoded in a language known only to a select few, a call for a meeting. Intrigued and wary, Aidan deciphered the message, which revealed the location of a clandestine rendezvous with an envoy from the hidden human enclaves. Under the cloak of starlight and the station's flickering neon signs, Aidan emerged into an open observation deck. There, amidst the rust and decay of spacefaring relics, he encountered the envoy, a figure draped in utilitarian gear, face obscured by a digital mask. The stranger's voice, modulated and low, carried the weight of years spent in exile. "You have seen the truth," the envoy whispered, eyes flickering with determination. "The legacy of humanity endures in the shadows. But know this, revealing what you have discovered will shatter the Empire's carefully constructed myth. There will be no turning back." In that charged moment, the enormity of the task ahead crystallized. Aidan, once a quiet scholar ensconced in the safe confines of historical inquiry, now stood at the precipice of rebellion. The evidence he had gathered was a spark, and his resolve was the tinder that could ignite a galaxy-wide inferno of change. The meeting ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving Aidan alone with the silent hum of the station and the resounding beat of his own resolve. He realized that the path to truth was fraught with peril, yet the promise of reclaiming humanity's forgotten legacy burned brighter than any fear. With the clandestine archive secured in his mind and heart, Aiden set forth on a course that would alter the fate of the Empire, a course that, once embarked upon, would unravel centuries of lies and herald the dawn of a new era. Thus, beneath the cold expanse of a forgotten station, the catalyst for rebellion had been lit, its flame destined to spread through the cosmos and challenge the Empire's iron grip on history. The star-strewn void beyond Nova Imperia became the stage for an ideological battle as fervor and dissent coalesced in hidden corners of the galaxy. Deep within a repurposed freighter drifting silently in a forgotten nebula, Aiden Mercer convened a secret assembly of minds equally committed to unearthing the truth. The air was charged with anticipation, every whispered exchange and furtive glance laden with the gravity of the moment. Inside the freighter's dimly lit meeting room, makeshift holographic maps and relics of forbidden lore flickered against cold, metallic walls. Coalition members, scholars, defectors, and insurgents sat in a circle of battered chairs, their eyes reflecting both determination and trepidation. The atmosphere was electric, as if the very fabric of the cosmos were holding its breath in anticipation of what might unfold. Aiden stood at the center, his voice steady and resolute. "We have unearthed the truth," he declared, his words resonating like a rallying cry. "The records are irrefutable. Humans survived the cataclysm. Our past, our identity, has been deliberately suppressed. Today, we reclaim it." His declaration was met with murmurs of agreement, the silent consensus of those who had long nurtured forbidden hope. A seasoned historian, Maris, a former archivist turned insurgent, leaned forward, her eyes blazing with conviction. "For years, we've lived under the tyranny of manufactured myths. But now, the evidence demands action. We cannot allow the Empire's lies to define our destiny any longer." Her words were punctuated by the quiet hum of the holographic projector, which displayed maps of hidden enclaves and relic sites scattered across remote star systems. In a corner, a young technician named Rian interjected, his voice carrying the raw edge of youthful defiance. "Every encrypted message, every lost artifact, is a piece of the puzzle. But if we expose this truth, we risk igniting chaos, an all-out war with the Empire. Are we prepared to shoulder that burden?" His question hung in the air, a challenge that underscored the precarious balance between hope and danger. Aiden met his gaze with a firm resolve. "The price of ignorance has already been paid by our people. The Empire has built its strength on the suppression of truth. If we are to forge a future based on authenticity and freedom, we must be willing to face the inevitable turmoil head-on." His words, measured and impassioned, served as a spark that ignited the collective courage of the assembly. As the meeting continued, the discussion deepened into a rigorous debate of strategy and ethics. Ideas clashed as fervently as the ideologies they represented. Some argued for a cautious, incremental unveiling of the truth, while others advocated for a bold, sweeping revelation that could shatter the Empire's control overnight. The room became a microcosm of the larger conflict, a contest between the entrenched authority of a tyrannical regime and the insistent, rebellious force of emerging truth. In a particularly poignant exchange, an ex-Imperial officer, now a defector known only as Commander Lyra, recounted her first-hand experiences within the Empire's rigid hierarchy. "I witnessed the calculated erasure of evidence, the cold dismissal of any anomaly that dared contradict the official narrative," she said, her voice tinged with both sorrow and defiance. "Our very souls were shackled by lies. Now, we have a chance to reclaim our identity, but it will demand sacrifice from every one of us." Her words resonated deeply with the assembly, solidifying their resolve. Each voice in the room, from the cautious to the audacious, was united by the shared conviction that truth was not merely a scholarly pursuit, it was the very essence of their collective freedom. As the meeting drew to a close, plans were set into motion to broadcast the evidence galaxy-wide, an act that promised to dismantle the carefully constructed facade of the Empire. Outside, the vast cosmos spun silently, indifferent to the human drama unfolding within its depths. Yet, in that secret gathering, a rebellion of thought and spirit was born, a convergence of minds that dared to envision a future unbound by imperial lies. The clash of ideologies was not just an internal debate. It was the genesis of a movement that would soon sweep across star systems, challenging the very foundation of a regime built on deception. In the fading light of the nebula, as the coalition dispersed into the shadows, the resolve of those gathered shone like a beacon against the dark. The struggle between myth and truth had entered a new phase, and with each heartbeat, the call for liberation grew louder, a call that would soon echo throughout the cosmos. The shimmering skyline of Nova Imperia, once a testament to imperial majesty, now trembled under the weight of impending revolt. In the heart of the capital, where pristine spires met the stars, the collision of truth and tyranny was about to reach its violent crescendo. Dr. Aidan Mercer, flanked by his hardened coalition, had infiltrated the central broadcasting nexus, the nerve center of the Empire's propaganda machine. Every corridor he passed was a stark reminder of the colossal power the regime wielded. Every echo of his footsteps resonated with the determination of a man prepared to risk everything for the sake of unveiling the truth. Inside the cavernous broadcast chamber, holographic panels danced with the official narrative. Endless images of a fallen humanity, of a cataclysm that had supposedly cleansed the galaxy of its frailties. It was here that the final confrontation would unfold, a direct challenge to Emperor Vorlin's tightly held illusion of order. In the midst of the chamber, a colossal screen flickered to life. The Imperial envoy's steely gaze met Aiden's, and in that charged moment, the distance between them dissolved. Vorlin's voice, smooth yet unyielding, filled the room. You dare defy the order of the Empire? To tamper with history is to invite chaos. His tone was laced with contempt, as if the very notion of dissent were a stain upon the fabric of civilization. Aiden's reply was calm, yet bristling with the urgency of suppressed truth. History is not a tool for tyranny, he proclaimed, his voice resonating with defiant conviction. It is the soul of our people, a beacon that must shine, even in the darkest night. The words hung in the air, charged with the power to shatter illusions and stir dormant hope. As the confrontation escalated, the room transformed into a battleground of ideologies. On one side stood Vorlin, surrounded by imposing imperial guards, his expression unchanging and resolute. On the other, Aiden and his allies, whose eyes burned with the light of truth. Tension coiled in the space between them, every heartbeat echoing the inevitable clash. The broadcast chamber erupted in a flurry of digital warfare. Holographic records containing damning evidence of humanity's survival surged onto the colossal screen, interlacing with the carefully curated imperial propaganda. The striking contrast was undeniable. Raw, unfiltered data stood in defiant opposition to a narrative built on suppression and control. Amid the chaos, Vorlin's voice wavered momentarily, a rare fissure in his imperious facade. You have no idea the forces you challenge, he hissed, his eyes narrowing into slits of icy fury. But Aiden, emboldened by the unwavering resolve of his coalition, pressed on. Every force has its limits. Your empire was built on the erosion of truth, and now, that very truth is your undoing. Outside the broadcast room, alarms blared through the corridors of Nova Imperia as imperial troops scrambled to restore order. The clash had ignited a spark that threatened to engulf the entire empire in rebellion. For a fleeting second, as digital records danced with fragments of history, the screen became a mirror reflecting a future unshackled by the chains of deception. In that charged moment, the confrontation was not just a contest of words, but the manifestation of a deep-seated struggle, a war between the dogmatic rule of an empire and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to remember who they once were. Every sentence, every image projected, was a declaration of defiance. The broadcast was a rallying cry for every soul oppressed by lies. As the battle of ideologies reached its zenith, the fate of countless lives hung in the balance. Aiden's bold stand within that echoing chamber had become the fulcrum upon which the future would pivot. And in the heart of Nova Imperia, the confrontation of truth against tyranny was only just beginning. a prelude to the shattering of a myth that had ruled the galaxy for far too long. The corridors of Nova Imperia were alive with an electric undercurrent of revolt. As the rebellion's message pulsed through every clandestine channel and hacked broadcast frequency, the Empire's meticulously crafted myth began to crumble like ancient ruins beneath the weight of undeniable truth. Aiden's coalition, now emboldened by the rapidly spreading evidence of humanity's survival, had executed their most daring plan yet. Hidden deep within the labyrinth of the Imperial network, a makeshift transmission hub stood as the rebels' beacon. From this secret outpost, a cascade of raw, unfiltered data, a mosaic of holographic archives, personal logs, and forgotten relics, was unleashed across every screen in the galaxy. On a vast central plaza in Nova Imperia, the monumental display that once served as a tool of Imperial propaganda flickered uncertainly. Slowly, the carefully maintained images of desolation and loss gave way to startling revelations. One by one, the faces of survivors, long-hidden communities, and vivid snapshots of life beyond the Empire's confines filled the giant screens. The juxtaposition was jarring, the pristine order of the Imperial narrative shattered by the raw, unvarnished truth of a people still very much alive. Citizens paused in the midst of their daily routines, transfixed by the unexpected images. In crowded marketplaces and silent transit hubs, whispers grew into a chorus of disbelief and hope. The controlled silence of subjugation was replaced by an uproar of voices questioning the reality they had been fed for generations. It was as if the very fabric of the Empire was unraveling before their eyes. At the heart of this tumult, Aiden's voice, calm yet imbued with fervor, resonated across the broadcast. "Today, we dismantle the myth that has chained us to a false past," he proclaimed. "This is our heritage, our identity, and no empire, no matter how vast, can erase the spirit of a people who endure." His words, amplified by the surging tide of evidence, rippled outward, igniting sparks of rebellion in even the most downtrodden corners of the Empire. In the high-security corridors of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vorlon watched in disbelief as the narrative he had so carefully constructed dissolved into chaos. His trusted advisors scrambled to regain control, their panicked commands echoing in marble halls now overrun by uncertainty. The Empire's iron grip began to falter as the undeniable proof of survival resonated with every disillusioned citizen. As the broadcast continued, scenes of hidden enclaves, vibrant communities thriving in remote star systems, rolled out in a breathtaking panorama of life reborn. These were not mere survivors. They were the descendants of Earth, resilient and resolute, who had cultivated a culture rich in tradition and innovation. Their existence was a living testament to the enduring human spirit, a counterpoint to the desolation that the Empire had long preached. The shattering of myths was not a single moment, but a cascade, a relentless, overwhelming tide that surged through every sector of the galaxy. In neighborhoods once complacent under Imperial rule, uprisings sparked as neighbors gathered to discuss the newfound revelations. In the palace, the once unassailable veneer of Imperial authority cracked, replaced by a palpable fear that the truth could no longer be contained. The Empire's propaganda machines faltered, their screens now haunted by the faces of a people united by their shared history and unyielding hope. And as the final vestiges of the old narrative crumbled, the call to reclaim an authentic past echoed louder than ever, a call that promised not just revolution, but the birth of a new, unburdened future. In that defining moment, as myths were shattered and truths laid bare, the galaxy stood on the precipice of transformation. The age-old lies of the Empire had been exposed, and in their place rose the indomitable spirit of a humanity that refused to be forgotten. As the first light of a new era broke over the shattered remnants of the old order, the galaxy found itself on the threshold of transformation. In the wake of rebellion, Nova Imperia was no longer a bastion of unyielding power, but a canvas awaiting the brushstrokes of renewal. The once imperious spires now stood as silent monuments to a fallen myth, their glass facades reflecting the hope of countless souls awakened to a truth long suppressed. In the aftermath of the grand broadcast, the chaos that had rocked the Empire slowly gave way to a palpable sense of cautious optimism. Across the galaxy, human enclaves once forced into secrecy emerged from the shadows. Their vibrant communities, each a living archive of heritage and resilience, joined the chorus of those who yearned for a future defined by truth rather than fabricated legends. In the remote outposts, bustling spaceports, and repurposed citadels of rebellion, people gathered to rebuild what had been lost, inspired by the realization that their past was not a death knell, but a foundation for renewal. Dr. Aidan Mercer, now regarded as a harbinger of change, stood at the heart of a provisional council formed by rebels, defectors, and visionary citizens. His eyes, once alight with the solitary pursuit of hidden histories, now sparkled with the promise of collective rebirth. Around him, once disparate voices converged in unity: historians, engineers, ex-imperial officers, and ordinary citizens, each contributing their unique piece to the mosaic of a liberated future. In a modest chamber within a repurposed imperial archive, Aidan convened one of the council's first meetings. The room, filled with scattered relics and illuminated by soft, ambient light, became the birthplace of a new philosophy. Here, debates were no longer about suppressing dissent, but about embracing diversity, understanding the multifaceted nature of their shared identity. The discussion was both earnest and impassioned, as old scars slowly gave way to a determination to learn from the past, while forging a future unburdened by the chains of lies. Commander Lyra, a defector whose testimony had once rattled the Empire's iron grip, now spoke of reconciliation. "We have witnessed the consequences of a history manipulated for power," she said, her voice steady and imbued with empathy. "Let us build a society where truth is not weaponized, where every voice, no matter how faint, can contribute to the narrative of our collective existence." Her words resonated deeply, igniting a shared commitment to transparency and mutual respect. Outside the council chamber, across a city emerging from the ruins of imperial decadence, public squares buzzed with spontaneous celebrations. The stark contrasts of holographic images, once tools of propaganda, now showcased the genuine faces and heartfelt stories of human resilience. In the sprawling urban districts, murals depicted scenes of rebirth, once subdued citizens transforming into architects of their destiny, each stroke of color a symbol of reclaiming a rich, multifaceted heritage. In one particularly moving scene, a former imperial officer, who had risked everything by defecting, met with a group of eager young scholars in a rebuilt amphitheater. Together, they recounted stories of the Empire's rise and fall, interweaving the lessons of history with a vision for a future that honored the complexity of their identity. Their conversation was punctuated by moments of reflective silence and bursts of animated hope, a microcosm of a society in the process of healing. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into a burgeoning era of reconstruction, the fragile peace found its rhythm in the steady beat of progress. The Council instituted initiatives to archive every fragment of uncovered history, ensuring that future generations would inherit a legacy of unvarnished truth. Educational reforms spread like stardust across distant colonies, and once forgotten traditions experienced a renaissance, reaffirming the indomitable spirit of humanity. In the waning hours of that transformative day, Aidan stood alone on a balcony overlooking a city reborn. The distant hum of work and the gentle murmur of voices, once silenced by fear, now celebrated the dawn of a society where history was no longer a weapon but a guide. With a deep breath, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection, the weight of the past mingling with the lightness of newfound hope. The journey was far from over, and challenges still lay ahead. Yet, in that serene moment, the cosmos itself seemed to whisper a promise that every end is merely the prologue to a new beginning. The empire of lies had fallen, and in its place, a new dawn, radiant, resilient, and resolutely human, had emerged.